Welcome back into Foolish Fantasy. I'm your host, Kramer Sansone, and we are heading into week 5. Holy cow, we're already 5 weeks in, 1 month in. We are officially into October. The pink is coming out, which I always love when the pink comes out around this time of the year. Obviously, always October, but we are in the mixed, in the fight, in the gauntlet. There's some teams that are 0-4, 1-3, 2-2, 3-1, 4-0 right now in fantasy football. We'll get to everything fantasy football related right here on Foolish Fantasy. I'm your host, Kramer Sansone. Welcome in. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to help out with the algorithm. And I appreciate you. If you are tuning in for the first time, welcome. If you're tuning in for the second, third, fourth, or fifth time, well, welcome back. I truly appreciate you being here and going to be taking your time out of your day. Just listen to some fantasy football stuff because I love it. You know that. So let's get to the question of the day for the audience. Is your team affected by the injury bug? And if so, which player is it? Thankfully, I haven't been really hit from the injury bug, maybe just this past week from what we heard from yesterday with Trey Benson going down. That's my only injury that I have in my team. But thankfully, that was a waiver wire pickup, and I can just stash him on my IR right now slot. But if you have Blake Neighbors, Tyreek Hill, to name a few, it's super unfortunate for you right now, and I'm feeling for you. I truly am. But with that being said, let's get to the funsies, the foolish fantasy funsies. Let's start off with a quarterback change that we are going to see now in Cleveland as they announced that Joe Flacco is out and Dillon Gabriel is in for this week. The Browns are playing the Vikings in London, so that's going to be a fun first start for Dillon Gabriel. I'm curious how this is going to go. He's an undersized quarterback. I did pick him up in a league just in case if he has some sort of promise or flashiness, which usually some first starting quarterbacks show because there's really not much tape on him. But Dillon Gabriel owned in like 1% of leagues. I'm curious if people did actually try to go out there for a waiver claim or even just by finding the news out today or even the day prior of saying, oh, yeah, no, he's out there. He's not owned, I guarantee you, in plenty of leagues, 99% of leagues to be exact. But it's just interesting to see that Joe Flacco is finally out, and now we're seeing Dillon Gabriel. I'm curious how soon we're going to see Shedeur Sanders. He might be next if Dillon Gabriel can't do it. I'm just curious. The height is going to be in the arm slot of him throwing the football is going to be interesting to say the least. What's going to do it? The game's being played in London, so we have to get up at 8:30 in the morning just to watch this kickoff happen. I'm okay with that. It's an early morning game, and it's also, again, the Vikings are playing overseas, which is nice that they had to stay over there, and Carson Wentz is getting a start there. But Dillon Gabriel's getting his first start as a San Francisco Giant. And listening, this is the 41st quarterback that's ever going to take a start in Cleveland Browns history. That's ridiculous amount of time, and they've only been around the league for 25 years, 26 years. They haven't been in the league for long at all. But let's go on to the injuries, and I will preface this right now. I'll post the Tyreek Hill season-ending knee injury right now as the graphic, but viewer discretion is advised on what we're going to see here with his knee because it's the image. It's the image. So that was your warning right there. Tyreek Hill has a season-ending knee surgery that he needed it done ASAP. And Tyreek Hill will not need another one, thankfully. That's good. That means the first surgery that they did that night was successful, and he won't have to go under a major surgery once more. He's all set and good, and he's all hooked up and corrected and put everything back together. Now he just has to heal up. But it was to repair his dislocated left knee and multiple torn ligaments, including an ACL. That was by his agent, Drew Rosenhaus. This was not good. This isn't what you want to see from Tyreek Hill, especially you don't want to see an injury like this because we don't see knees bend this way, and usually when we do, it's just gruesome, and people want to stay away from the image, stay away from the video. Kind of like when Kevin Ware did it to himself back in the 2013 national championship run for the Louisville Cardinals, and this is just bad. Thankfully, they do expect him to play in 2026, which that's insane. I know that's a full year away. He can figure it out. He's going to have to play no matter what to hopefully pay off his kids' schooling. So that's going to have to be very pricey with all the kids that he does have. But Tyreek Hill, this isn't good. This isn't what you want from a guy that's playing football at one of the highest levels. This is one of the fastest guys in the league as well. And I know for a fact it's hurting your fantasy teams, especially for some people who decide to piggyback on, I'll get Tyreek Hill here or get Malik Neighbors here, then I get Tyreek Hill that next pick if they do like a 10-team or a 12-team league. Sometimes those guys do fall. Your team's donezo. It's not good. It's not what you wanted. This isn't how we wanted Tyreek Hill's season to end on an injury like this. I wanted to see Tyreek Hill play this full entire season out, but he is done. Thankfully, they do anticipate him coming back for 2026, but I don't know if we're going to see the explosive Tyreek Hill that we've seen accustomed to this entire time in the NFL. As we head on to the Foolish Funsies, how valuable is Justin Fields right now as a starter for your fantasy team? And I'm here to answer that question because he'll be able to keep up will he be able to keep up his production from Monday night? There's a good chance he will, all because of the fact how he can run with his legs. He had 7 attempts for 80 yards with a rushing touchdown on Monday night. And the thing is with Justin Fields, though, is he didn't really look great until throwing the football until the fourth quarter when they kind of had to. They only had 7 points all the way up until the fourth quarter. I think they ended up finishing with over 20. And Garrett Wilson finally showed out and shined out in that fourth quarter to help out the production for Justin Fields. Justin Fields is a valuable starter this week because they're playing the Dallas Cowboys. So I would circle him right now as a deploy option. We will get to deploy and stashes here soon, as this is a big fantasy point week, especially if your quarterback is on a bye right now. There's 4 teams on the bye. And if you need to add a quarterback that's off waivers, like he's your guy. I know he had a concussion. He was out a couple of weeks. He put up a 47-point performance when it comes to PPR standards, which is impressive. Is exactly what you wanted for a quarterback for your team. So that's I think you can guarantee Justin Fields is going to continue to have some success, especially this week. Maybe this is you play him this week, then you go back to your guy. Maybe if you have a Caleb Williams right now and he's on a bye, you bring in Justin Fields, have him start for you, then go back to Caleb Williams next following week. There's nothing wrong with that. You need to play this matchup, though. You need to play Justin Fields versus the Dallas Cowboys because there is so many fantasy points there during this game that's going to be out there and about. So if you also have Garrett Wilson, make sure you start him as well because he's going to be being fed majority of the time, unless you're also Breece Hall's going to run the football as well. Commanders going to be rolling with Jayden Daniels, which that's good if you're a Jayden Daniels believer and also a roster holder for him. He's finally coming back. He missed the last 2 weeks with a left knee sprain, which he suffered against the Green Bay Packers in week 2. But with him being here, he's medically cleared to return, paving the way for him to play on Sunday night versus the Chargers. So it's going to be a fun matchup between Jayden Daniels versus Justin Herbert, and I'm very curious to see how the Chargers rebound from their loss this past week against the Giants, but I'm also curious to see what Jayden Daniels is going to do to that defense over on the Chargers side. Chargers defense has been playing pretty good, minus the production of the game that they had against the Giants this past week. Jackson Dart did beat them. But I'm curious to see what the Jayden Daniels can do by dotting up all these guys. And Deebo Samuel might have a game against the Chargers. So that's good. Jayden Daniels is going to be out there. This was the very surprising thing that we saw on Wednesday morning is the fact that Trey Benson, who was a big waiver wire addition last week, is going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks after going under the knife as he underwent arthroscopic knee surgery on his meniscus. So he'll be out 4 to 6 weeks. So, yeah, DeMarcado is probably your best ad right now to have, or even Wilson. I think, is it Mac Wilson? That's another running back for the Cardinals. So there's a guy there. But Trey Benson being out 4 to 6 weeks, that's a big shocker and surprise on Wednesday. But also that running back situation happened. And then also Bucky Irving's going to be out for for a couple of weeks. Possibly. Actually, we don't really know what the long-term is for Bucky Irving, but he was shown in a walking boot and also on crutches in the facility on Wednesday. That's not ideal in what you want to hear from Bucky Irving. So Rachaad White, it's White time. It's a product from right over here, right in Kansas City. We're going to see some run there. Bucky Irving is hurt, and it's unlikely. He's probably doubtful. He's listed questionable if you look at him right now, but I bet he's doubtful for this week's game. The Buccaneers are playing the Seahawks this week. So there's going to be a lot of Rachaad White during that game against the Seahawks. So that's the funsies right there. And then now I want to go over a handful of guys that we've made it. We're going into 5 weeks. We're going into 5 weeks into fantasy football season, and there's been some dreadful players that have been out there, especially some high-end players, some top 25, top 50 players that are in PPR leagues that we expect them to play like top 50 or top 25 players in PPR leagues, heck, even top 1 players in PPR leagues, and we're just not getting that right now. So now we're going to play a game. We're going to play, are we pressing the panic button on said players? Because there's just, you don't want it. You just don't want it to happen, especially if you're the first overall pick. Let's just get to it. Ja'Marr Chase. Are we pressing the panic button right now on Ja'Marr Chase? Because if I had it right in front of me, I'm clicking that right. Yes, I'm hitting the panic button on Ja'Marr Chase. With Jake Browning as the quarterback, this offense is horrendous. This is not what you expect from your first overall pick, my first overall pick. And that's the reason why I traded him in majority of my leagues. If you can find a way to trade Ja'Marr Chase off your team, you may not get the value that you hoped to have for Ja'Marr Chase, but he's just not doing anything in an offense led by Jake Browning. And that you can also, for instance, there's another guy that's pictured in this image as well that we're going to easily get to. I'm going to hit the panic button right now. Panic button on T. Higgins. T. Higgins has another person that you expected. He's a top 25 pick that you would have that would basically be the number 2 option for Joe Burrow. But Joe Burrow being out has hurt the fantasy stock for these 2 prime athletes in Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins. I'm pressing the panic button. I think you should as well. I have T. Higgins multiple teams, multiple leagues, and I am like, why did I do this to myself? I knew he was going to be a red zone target. He's a red zone threat. Heck, I think he caught a touchdown pass from Jake Browning in week 2 when Joe Burrow went down. But since then, the only person that's caught a touchdown pass is the backup tight end, Drew Sample. Drew Sample. That's crazy. Like that, not even Ja'Marr Chase is getting touchdown passes. T. Higgins isn't getting touchdown passes. Chase Brown's not getting touchdown passes or runs, which, by the way, Chase Brown on the list of do we press the panic button? I'm not. I'm holding off on pressing the panic button on Chase Brown. I am. Especially this week as the Bengals are playing. Off the top of my head. Scroll down, Kramer. Scroll down. Where are they playing? I can't find them. Cannot find them. Bengals are playing the Lions. I think there are some fantasy points to be had for Chase Brown this week. Running the football and also being pass catching the football from Jake Browning. I just know that Jake Browning is the big reason why I'm pressing the panic button right now on any wide receiver or tight end in the Cleveland, I mean, they kind of feel like the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals organization. Like, I just can't with these guys, and I just won't. So Chase Brown, I'm not panicking yet, but for the first 2 guys that Chase and Higgins, yes, I'm definitely pressing the panic button on him. Derrick Henry should have gotten a lot more run this past week against the Kansas City Chiefs. The thing is, it just never happened. It never came to fruition. And his snap count from back-to-back weeks have gone down, which isn't great. And it's not what you want from a guy like Derrick Henry. He's supposed to be the bell cow. He's supposed to be the guy that's going to come in there and get you 2 touchdowns, maybe get you 100 yards, be a difference maker. He had 39% snaps last week, 49% against the Detroit Lions, 61 in Cleveland. These are, I guess if you're going to go with every other, even his attempts on rushes have gone down. From week 1, it was 18 against the Bills. That was against the Bills, people. He had 18 rushing attempts. Week 2, Cleveland, 11. Week 3, Detroit, 12. Week 4, Kansas City, 8. It has been drastically declining. And, I mean, the over-under right now set for him against Houston this week is 78.5. I don't think he's even touching that. I would hope that, especially with Cooper Rush is going to be the quarterback behind center. They might run the ball more. They might have to throw the ball, though, because if your offensive line isn't getting the push, he's averaging yards. He's averaging 5.2 against Kansas City. He averaged 4 against Detroit. He's getting the yards. They're to stop running the ball with him. I wouldn't say I'm panicking yet, but it's in the back of my mind for Derrick Henry. I want nothing but the best for him. Clearly, he last year was insane last year. Go back to that. If you're Baltimore, go back to that, especially if Cooper Rush is going to be your quarterback right now. If it's not going to be Lamar Jackson. David Njoku, the first tight end we have talking about right now. I'm panicking because especially he's sharing the snaps with Harold Fanning Jr., I would say. He's not. I mean, he's getting all the snaps for him. He's actually outsnapping Harold Fanning Jr., but it's pretty darn close. 84% of the snaps, but he's not putting in fantasy production whatsoever. But I also want to pump the brakes because last year, David Njoku was a second half of the season fantasy performer. He helped fantasy teams win leagues last year because of the second half. Is that what they're doing right now? Or is it the Joe Flacco effect. Maybe this week is the week that David Njoku goes off. Maybe this is the week that Harold Fanning Jr. goes off because it's a new quarterback. Dillon Gabriel is probably going to do not a lot of deep shots, probably a lot of 5 to 10 yard passes, which is very smart for a young rookie quarterback. But David Njoku, I'm hitting the panic button on David Njoku. It's just not there for him. He's not, even the targets dropped from 3 last week from the week prior for 7. Had 11 yards. His over-under on receiving yards this week is 31.5. That's against Minnesota. Minnesota, all the way in London. Maybe London's weird. Like, anytime they go overseas, those games are kind of weird. There's a player like that just eats the entire time. Maybe David Njoku's the guy who eats this week. Maybe that's the case. But I'm very curious to see what he is, but I'm pressing the panic button. I feel like I have to. Travis Hunter. Are we pressing the panic button on Travis Hunter? This guy cannot get it going at all when it comes on offense. He's getting 50% of the snaps on offense, 50% of the snaps over on defense as well. So he's splitting. Even though his snap percentage last week in Dublin was at, like, I think 7%. No, not even 7. No, they were not in Dublin, Kramer. Quit thinking that they were in Dublin. They're playing the 49ers this past week. He had 7% of the snaps over on defense this past week. So I'm curious to see if that's going to be an uptick over on the Chiefs side, especially going off against a dominant quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. I kind of want to see the matchups if he causes a nuisance, whether it's against Xavier Worthy or Hollywood Brown or even Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm curious if we're going to have him set up, but I think he will play majority on the defense. I'm not panicking on Travis Hunter yet because at some point, Liam Cohen and his offense are going to find a way to make this all gel and all work out and work for both sides, for both parties on the offense and defense. But I wouldn't say I'm panicking just yet. He's still getting targets. I mean, he got 5 targets last week. He hauled in 3 passes for 42 yards, had the most 42 yards is the most he's had all season. So that's at least a positive there for Travis Hunter. But I'm not technically hitting the panic button yet on him. But this next guy, smashing it. DJ Moore. Smashing the DJ Moore panic button. It's just, he's not the number one option whatsoever for Caleb Williams. And I think Ben Johnson understands that, all right, there's a talent gap between Rome Odunze and DJ Moore. And at some point, we're going to see Luther Burden start taken away from DJ Moore as well. We kind of seen it one week on a big deep shot, but we're not getting the volume of targets and touchdowns that we got from last year with DJ Moore. And that could be a problem for DJ Moore guys who've got on rosters. That's why I am hitting the panic button when it comes to DJ Moore. And lastly on this list, Calvin Ridley. Yes, panic button hit. This is not a good thing for Cam Ward. At whatever this is the guy that you want to help out your first overall draft pick, your future QB, the QB of the future Cam Ward. You would want a better outcome, but he's been guarded by a lot of good defenses. With Pat Surtain in week 1, even though he had 8 targets and hauled in 4 catches, he has only gone over 50 yards once. And that was against the Los Angeles Rams. And his snap percentage last week down to 54%. That's not good. That's not what you want from Calvin Ridley, who's the wide receiver 1 on this team. Alec Ayumanor is a guy who I think has surpassed him there. Wow. Calvin Ridley's not the number 1 option at all. Smashing the panic button on that. They do go against the Arizona Cardinals, but he's wide receiver 69 right now. Calvin Ridley is wide receiver 69. Nice, but not nice. If you made it this far in the Foolish Fantasy, bravo. Bravo to you. Make sure you let me know what your record is and also the question out throughout the show if you have yet to put in the comment section right now. Is your team affected by the injury bug? Is it? And which player of yours was the one that got hurt? Week 5. Week 5 is here. Week 5, let's deploy. Let's stash. Who are the guys that we are going to look after this week? First off, teams that are on buys. Bye week 5. This might be the worst bye week to have, I think, in all of football. I would prefer to have the bye week later on in the season. But if you're the Steelers, Bears, Falcons, and Packers, you got it in week 5. So the bye weeks are officially here. Let's get into the Thursday night game, the game that's happening tonight. We already know guys who are already out, and Brock Purdy, Juwan Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall are all out for this game. So who are we deploying and who are we stashed for tonight's football game? I'm saying always deploy Puka Nacua. I think you could deploy any offensive guy right now on unless Higbee, let's stash Higbee for this week. He's hurt anyways, or he's dealing with a lingering hip issue. So I would stash Higbee, but I'm starting no matter what Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua needs to start no matter what. That's an automatic. Keep him in your lineup. Lock that in. Do not trade Puka Nacua because he's the number one wide receiver in fantasy football for like the last 3 years. And yeah, CMC, this team is going to be relied upon CMC the entire time. And I would probably stash Demarcus Robinson. I would, if he's available in a lot of leagues, I would grab him to grab and stash. That would be a nice grab and stash option for teams as Demarcus Robinson right now, depending on how long or how often Juwan Jennings or Ricky Pearsall, who seems like they're always on the injury report each and every single week. You just can't trust the wide receiver out there in San Francisco because even when they do play, those guys are getting the targets. When they don't play, it's just dreadful. It's a bad offense. Then CMC just absolutely takes over. That's what we might see. So maybe you can scroll upon the backlogs of every single roster for the 49ers to try to find that diamond in the rough guy. But I honestly would pick up Demarcus Robinson and just stash him on your bench. But though, deploying Puka, deploying CMC. Let's go on to Sunday's game. Let's go into the early London game. So make sure your lineups are set either Saturday night or wake up early on Sunday morning and get that locked in because it locks at 8:30. So make sure you get that in there because you don't want to mess up and be like you start Jaylen Warren last week. If you started Jaylen Warren last week, you understand that you got 0 points because you didn't wake up early enough to change or check your lineup because he was ruled out. But no, for the Vikings-Brown games in London, I'm deploying Jordan Addison. I saw enough last week in Dublin where it's like, yeah, he's going to get the action. He will. Welcome back, Jordan Addison, as we highlighted him all of this last episode. Jordan Addison is a must start this week. He might be a flex option or your wide receiver number 2 in your leagues, depending on how it is orchestrated. Harold Fanning Jr., I would deploy this week as well. He's probably the best option for Dillon Gabriel. I just feel like there's going to be a connection there. If you're stashing any people, I would stash Jerry Jeudy. I don't think Gabriel's going to be throwing that many deep shots. Jerry Jeudy might be the decoy at times to try and hopefully get something. He will get targeted. Don't get me wrong. He will get targeted, but it's not going to see any type of Jerry Jeudy production from him. So we haven't really seen Jerry Jeudy production at all this season. TJ Hawkinson's going to be a guy I would also stash. I feel like with Jordan Addison there, you're guarding 2 guys. And we saw that TJ Hawkinson is a valuable option when Carson Wentz is under center. And Justin Jefferson's going to get his run. He's going to probably be double covered most of the time or being shadowed by a lot of people. And also I think it's how it is for TJ Hawkinson, because if you're Carson Wentz, you either got your wide receiver 1 or your tight end 1. That's your number 1 or go-to options are, all right, look for Jay Jetta, then look for TJ. Then if that's not the case, go to Jordan Addison. That's why I think you go to TJ Hawkinson. You're stashing him this week. I don't think he's going to have the production that he's supposed to. If you go to the Texans and Ravens game, I'm deploying Woody Marks. I would start Woody Marks over Nick Chubb. If you still have Nick Chubb, I would still start him anyways. But you're starting Woody Marks. Had 19 attempts this past week, ran for a lot of yards, and he found himself in the end zone. So I would say deploy Woody Marks. And I'm deploying Derrick Henry this week. It's going to be a nice little grounded pound type of week for the Texans and Ravens game. I'm stashing Christian Kirk. He was targeted not quite a bit this past his first week in a Texans uniform. I just don't know if he has it, if that makes sense. And also, I'm stashing Mark Andrews. The Texans have a good defense where it comes to stopping the tight ends. And if it's Cooper Rush, Cooper Rush is the quarterback this upcoming week. I mean, I know Lamar Jackson's in a loophole of like, do you play him? If you play him, it looks like he quit on his team against the Chiefs, or you don't play him and have him stay face and come back in week 6. I don't know. But if Cooper Rush is starting, I'm benching Mark Andrews. That's also why you should also start Derrick Henry because of Cooper Rush effect. On the Dolphins and Panthers, I'm deploying Jaylen Waddle. Jaylen Waddle has getting a bad rap on a lot of people, and I think with no Tyreek Hill, he's about to shine and shine and shine. Jaylen Waddle is a must start this week. Over on the Panthers side, Ted McMillan, yes, start him. He's getting at least 7 to 8 targets each and every single week. He's going to probably get a touchdown this week against the Dolphins. I think you could probably book that in as it happening. So Ted McMillan, I would deploy. I'm stashing Darren Waller. I know he had 2 touchdowns on Monday night. It's not, I don't think that's going to be a custom thing to do. If he's a free agent right now, you better get him on your bench, but I'm not going to start him by any means, because if we get to Darren Waller that we saw, that he was in a Las Vegas Raiders uniform or even the Oakland Raiders uniform, that's going to be a good thing to have and a good problem to have on your bench, knowing that you have a tight end, a backup tight end that you could throw in there if your tight end number 1 starts to flail a little bit. But I would say stash. Do a grab and stash on Darren Waller. Make sure you go look out there in free agency and grab him if he's out there, which I guarantee you he is. And then over on the Panthers side, Rico Dowdle. I'm rolling with Chuba Hubbard no matter what until he gets hurt. But no, Rico is a guy that if you need a stash. Don't start Rico. Over on the Raiders and Colts, I'm starting Trey Tucker this week. Had an underwhelming week 4. I think he gets back this week. The Colts do give up a lot of offensive passing yards. So that's a thing to look at there. So I think Trey Tucker gets back in the work. I mean, Jacoby Myers, you should probably deploy as well. Over on the Colts side, you're deploying Daniel Jones. And if you're stashing, you want to start. This is the week. This is the game, I think, where if you have the offensive weapons, like you have the Geno Smith, you should probably start him. You should probably start Michael Pittman. You definitely need to start Jonathan Taylor. Any offensive playmakers that we've seen happen throughout the first 4 weeks, you need to start this week from this individual team, whether if it is the Raiders or if it is the Colts. This is going to be where all the fantasy points are going to happen. This game and the one that we're about to preview here in a second. But before that, actually, you could probably do it for this one too. I think the Giants and Saints game, you're deploying Jackson Dart. I think you should start Jackson Dart this week against the Saints defense. I think he's going to do incredible things. I think he's also going to run into the end zone at least once. Alvin Kamara, you should start there. Spencer Rattler's just going to dump off to him the entire time. I would stash Darius Slayton. Out of the two, Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton, I think it's going to be Robinson the entire time. Also, Robinson is the most rostered player right now between the two. So Slayton, I think, is owned at like 5 to 6%. So he is out there. So he would be the wide receiver number 2 option for them, though. But I don't think you should start him whatsoever. So I would stash him. And honestly, for the Saints, I wouldn't stash anybody. It's not like the Giants' defense is that great. Your Juwan Johnson's gonna have his run. Chris Olave is gonna have his time. Heck, I could see Rashid Shaheed is going to have a day as well. So I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of people you can deploy in a Saints uniform. Also, another game where it's just going to be fantasy points after fantasy points after fantasy points that I'm expecting. That's the Cowboys and Jets game. You need to start Garrett Wilson. You need to start George Pickens. You need to literally start, if you have anybody like a Breece Hall, if you have a Javonte Williams, like if you have you can even go backup wise. Like you should start players that are in Cowboys and Jets uniforms this week if you have any sort of offensive production that you want, because they will deliver and they'll give it to you. Broncos and Eagles, as we continue the back half slate of the 325. I believe it's after this is the 325 game. Yes, no, it's not. This is still an early window game. The Broncos and Eagles. I would deploy RJ Harvey. He had a great week, Monday Night Football game. And I think we're going to probably see more and more RJ Harvey worked into the system, especially going against an Eagles defense that's probably going to stop the run a lot on J.K. Dobbins. And they're going to have to force themselves to do some pass catching. And RJ Harvey showed why they drafted him in the 4th round, because he played absolutely incredible this past week. And also Dallas Goedert. I would start him. I would thoroughly start him, because AJ Brown and Devonta Smith are guys that I just do not trust on this team, especially on that defense for the Broncos. That's why I think Goddard's going to be the guy that's going to get all the pass catching opportunities. I mean, of course, clearly start Saquon, clearly start Jalen Hurts. I would sit Cortland Sutton this week. I don't think he has a good matchup at all, especially with all the hands that Bo Nix is trying to throw it to. I think Bo Nix is going to have a rough time in the offense against the Eagles. Now let's go to the late window games at 3 o'clock. The Titans and Cardinals, I would deploy Marvin Harrison Jr. Big reason because of how last week happened. I think it happens again. I would play Tony Pollard. I know Tajay Spears might get some playing time this week, but this is a week where Tony Pollard, if he wants to continue to be the number 1 running back, you make sure that he's going to have himself a day. He needs to have himself a day, because I can see Tajay Spears finding a spot or a rhythm in this offense that could actually surpass Tony Pollard at some point. So keep that in the back of your mind. I'm stashing DeMarcado after we saw with Trey Benson being hurt. I really do not want to start any running back right now for any Arizona Cardinal at this instant. You should not be starting them. You should be able to stash them, maybe grab and stash, maybe grab them off of waivers and put them there. But I would not deploy DeMarcado. Make sure he is stashed, especially with the news that we saw and heard with Trey Benson. And I would stash Calvin Ridley. We talked about him earlier. I pressed the panic button. If you can get any added value from him, trade him. Try to trade him. Try. Because it's just not there. It's just not there for him. Heck, even the maybe the Titans need to trade him. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. Possibly. On to the Buccaneers and Seahawks. You're deploying Rachaad White. He's a must start this week. You have to start him this week. And JSN, clearly JSN has to be. doing it. Sterling Shepard, you should stash. If you expected Godwin to be ruled out, I understand why you would want to start him, or maybe possibly being hurt. Maybe he's a flex option. He's not a flex option this week against that defense of the Seahawks. And then I would sit. This is weird. It's a weird set, me pairing this thing up. But one of the running backs for the Seahawks is you should probably sit. I want to probably lean Zach Charbonnet, but Tampa Bay could present like a challenge, I guess, for those running backs because they a league low 216 rushing yards through the first 4 weeks of the season. Yeah, the running backs are not going to do well. The Seattle Seahawks running backs won't do great against this Buccaneers defense. So now Lions and Bengals. I'm deploying David Montgomery. Had a crap week last week, which means he's very fresh for this week to have a dominant week. I know he had 10 attempts for a yard, maybe 2 yards, maybe 10 yards. I don't know. He averaged a yard per attempt, which isn't great. I am deploying Chase Brown this week. I think he will have his best week of the season this week. I'm stashing Sam Laporta because that defense for the Bengals isn't great. But there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to Detroit. So I'm stashing Sam Laporta. I'm also stashing Jamar Chase. Do not start Jamar Chase this week. If you do, I'm sorry, but look who's throwing him the football. It's Jake Browning. Do you really trust Jake Browning like I do? I don't trust Jake Browning at all. Commanders, Chargers. Deebo Samuel, you better start. And Keenan Allen, you should start. You should stash Zach Ertz, and you should also stash Ladd McConkey for great reasons. The Chargers are great at guarding tight ends. They're also great on defense. So I just don't think the Zach Ertz is going to be a valuable option for Jayden Daniels. For the Sunday night game, Patriots and Bills, I think you should deploy Ramondre Stevenson. And then you should also start Keenan Coleman. Stash at Hunter Henry. The Bills' defense is good. I don't think Hunter Henry is going to have himself a day at all. And also, I'm going to stash their tight end on his counterpart, Dalton Kincaid. And then if you go over to the Chiefs and Jaguars game, you're deploying Xavier Worthy this week. We saw what he did last week. Didn't get in the end zone, but still had a day when it comes to fantasy football standards. Start Xavier Worthy, and I would start Brenton Strange. Brenton Strange might be the only bright spot besides ETN on this team right now, especially going into this Monday Night Football game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Brenton Strange might have some good run, some good catches, and probably a touchdown or two against the Kansas City Chiefs. I am stashing Hollywood Brown. From what I saw, I know he got a touchdown last week, but what we saw with Xavier Worthy, did he get a touchdown this past week? I just know he got orchestrated in there. But I think Xavier Worthy just completely takes everything away from this team. I know that Mahomes and Andy wants to make sure that every single person on that offense touches the ball at least once or receives the ball at least once. But maybe this is the week where that doesn't happen. I know it's a big maybe, but I think you're stashing Hollywood Brown. He's not a valuable starter option. He's not a very good flex option for you this week at all. And then Brian Thomas Jr., he's on a milk carton. Maybe he comes out and shows out against the Chiefs on Monday Night Football, but until he proves to me that he can be the Brian Thomas Jr. from last year, I'm not starting him. There's a lot more better options on wide receiver market, even on waivers, to do more numbers than what Brian Thomas Jr. is doing. But that is deploy and stash. If you made it all the way through this part, thank you so much. Make sure you do like, subscribe, and comment that if your team is the record, and also the question of the show, is your team affected by the injury bug? Because thankfully mine really wasn't. Thankfully it wasn't. But thank you for all listening. I've been Kramer Sansone, your host here on Foolish Fantasy. Good luck this week. If you have yet to win a fantasy game, this is the week. I guarantee it. You will get the job done. If you need a sneaky little ad to have to your team that's on waivers right now, is it Malik Washington? Is that the guy that's out there in Miami? Yeah. Go get the wide receiver number 2 out there in Miami and put him on your bench, because he's going to be an interesting one to have, because who knows? He might be the reason why you win the championship later on this year. Have a good one. Good luck this week. Week 5, here we come.